the China disad, and then case. All right, so ready?
Topicality, politics, China.
Case, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She hasn't heard it yet?
No.
All right, do you want to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the assignment right now. Yeah. Sweet. All right, I just sent it to you. Let me it. Yeah. I just sent it to whoever.
You only sent it to me.
Yeah, I sent it to whoever emailed me.
Can you reply? I'll share it to you, but can you reply? Because we're like supposed to reply all. So
Oh, okay, yeah. I figured yours. So I had to share it. I had to share yours. So I figured it was all right. Is everyone ready? All right. Totality. We meet. Our plan action comes from resolution. Counter-interpretation. Plan actions come from resolution. Reasons refer to ground. Being extra helpful gives them more ground for links. If anything, increase ground because they could take out the auto somewhere or remove landmines from the DMZ. We'd have to defend, but keep them as effective as dealable one. Predictable. Every plan is extra topical. There's no abuse in this round. All our advantages stem from the DMZ. We're not claiming any advantages outside the treaty potential. We aren't garnering impact from the treaty outside the DMZ. All our links specifically to that area. If it's up happens around the world, then cool. We're going to claim that as an impact. It's the most logical conclusion I've been inferred on this issue. Literature checks almost all evidence discussed U.S. military disengagement from South Korea, also discussed our landmine policy. Look to reasonability. Competing interpretation just a race to the bottom provides no education or context in the debate. And even if the Ottawa Treaty is military presence, the levels of foreign military presence include mutual or multilateral security agreements such as CENTO or NATO. Here's our preemptive answer for all the fairness and objectivity claims. Their notions of fairness are grounding in hegemonic forms of knowledge production within debate. These conceptions of fairness should be rejected for more inclusive forms of debate that is tolerant of diverse argumentative styles. Delgado, law professor at U of Colorado, 1992. We have firmly built power to view appropriate standard of conduct is very key fair. Thus, the stronger party is able to have hither their way and see himself principle at the same time. The objective approach is not inherently more fair, but rather is accepted because the commodity state and stronger party who centers go from a position to dictate what permission and allowance can be drawn to reflect stable arguments about fairness points away from what that really counts. This stronger party manages to cut the abuse into external culture. Their claim of violation is another attempt to push the question of social subjugation to the side of the order to preserve the hierarchies and neoliberal models of education. This provides reason to reject. The negatives approach to debate perpetuates neoliberal forms of education that make sacrificial destruction, that make dehumanization its impacts inevitable. Giroux, 2005. Neoliberalism has been understood and challenged with both economic theory and powerful public pedagogy and cultural politics. That is, has been critically understood before it can be critiqued. Such a recognition suggests identifying and critically examining the most salient and powerful ideologies that form and frame neoliberalism. And it also suggests the need on the part of progressives to make cultural politics notion of public pedagogy look good. The recognition of culture domination is as important as perhaps a more recognition of possibility of political and economic domination through advance in our thinking. This position is not meant to disavow institutional struggles, but to supplement them with cultural politics that connect symbolic power and pedagogical practices with material. Now moving on to politics. The Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement has decreased bipartisanship in Congress. The U.S. and 11, Boyer 2015, the U.S. and 11 other Pacific Rim nations have reached a sweeping trade agreement wanted to cover 40% of the world's economy, sparking skepticism among the administration's scarce Republican allies in Congress, intensifying calls for liberals for Hillary Rodham Clinton to stand against the pact. In Congress, there were troubling sounds where President Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Democrats and Labor Unions voiced reservation with the deal. Senate Finance Chairman Warren G. Hatchie, Utah Republican, who also voted in June to give Mr. Obama a fast-track trade negotiating authority, said he was skeptical of the agreement. The U.S. Trade Executive, U.S. Michael Froman, calls the deal an ambitious, high-standard, comprehensive agreement. If our plan was to decrease bipartisanship, like they said it would, and then they said that the impact of that was an economic collapse, this would have already triggered that impact. That parties that are already divided over the TPP, it has not caused an economic collapse. It surely hasn't caused a nuclear war. This impact has no ground. Moving on to China. Attempt to prevent a China war actually calls it Clemens 12. A tough line toward China could jeopardize long-term U.S. and world security. Washington risks becoming trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy, expecting and preparing for a confrontation with China. U.S. policies may push China to the very behaviors Washington would like to prevent, and toward a collision that no sane person would welcome. This is also Orientalism. China threats are constructed on Orientalist paradigm. Realist theory don't take into account what China actually is, but it's predicated on constructed notions of threats. Scholars claim to know the Chinese better than they know themselves. Pan 04. China threat literature represents a discursive construction of other instead of an objective account of China reality. It is a centralization and totalization. The discursive construction cannot be detached from neorealism. Neorealism is not a transcendent description of global reality, but is predicated on the modern Western identity. China experts are much more likely to have background strategic studies or international relations in China itself. China emerged in the absolute other, and thanks to this neorealistic prime emphasis on survival and security and international relations, dovetails perfectly with the U.S. self-imagination. Because the U.S. states, to define itself in the indispensable nation in the world of anarchy is often to demand absolute security. China represents a kind of uncertainty of our excellence. An absolute strategic other, a discursive construct from which cannot escape. A shared positivist and mainstream China expert know they know China themselves, better than they know China themselves. We alone can know for sure that they consider us their enemy and thus presume it of us an account Orientalist problematic distinction between the West and the Orient. The U.S. constructs Chinese, others does not require China acknowledge and the validity of the dichotomous construction. Mainstream China watchers refuse to acknowledge the legitimacy of the inherent fluidity of Chinese identity and subjectivity, and instead try to fix ambiguity as absolutely different from us, a kind of certainty that denotes nothing but otherness and threat. This is an independent reason to reject them, because discursive violence, racism should be rejected in every instance. At worst, this should be a reason why all their realistic logic is flawed and should be rejected. Moving on to the case. Our plan removes the U.S. landmines, which are only left on the 38th parallel. It's a global treaty signed by people all over the world. The U.S. has obliged by all parts of this treaty except on the 38th parallel. The U.S. has kept landmines there, and that's violating human rights, because if the U.S. stands for human rights, we can't support or condone the use of landmines anywhere. Our plan does remove troops, and in terms of hegemony being good, hegemony actually creates instability. Turn U.S. hegemony creates conflicts. Freeman 10. The argument that U.S. hegemony underlies global stability, damping conflict between rivals, theoretical and empirical foundation for this claim is weak. It overestimates American military's contribution to international stability and the danger that instability poses. The U.S. now forces contribute little to peace. History suggests that without U.S. potential rivals will achieve a stable balance rather than fight. U.S. forces create more unrest than they prevent. Our forced deployments can also generate instability by prompting states to develop nuclear weapons. And then balancing increases stability. An American, Porter 13, an American retreat from hegemony would benefit U.S. security withdrawal of American military, would see the re-emergence of natural checks, a return to balance and equilibrium. Competition will be limited, cooperation is imperative in competition. Never before have there been such strong incentives for peace, stability, and cooperation. New threats require joint responses, form the basis of concert power, collaborating the unifying force of common threats, such as terrorism, proliferation, and climate change. Hedge clearly is, as our evidence shows, is not contributing to stability in the region. And as this is saying back to the China case, there is plenty of reason that China would not just come and take all the power if the U.S. left. There's natural balances that exist. Having a unipolar power structure such as the U.S. only helps instability. And like I said, the U.S. landmines violate human rights. Having these landmines there under the U.S. flag and condoned by the U.S. is a violation of human rights. And that is all I have to say. I stand with both of you.
Great process. You said that natural balances exist. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, if the U.S. isn't the only power, like China isn't just going to invade and take over all these other countries. No one wants these wars.
Okay. Do you have any evidence to
Not in this.
not in this? Okay. Can you?
I do, because I have the evidence that says hedge creates instability.
Okay.
Right there, Freeman 10.
Okay. Can you explain the response to the politics dissent, the Trans-Pacific?
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
I'm just a little confused
Mhm.
because it says that the tag says that it creates decreases partisanship.
Yeah, it decreases bipartisanship.
It-
So your argument was that our plan would decrease partisanship, which would lead to an economic collapse. Partisanship has already been decreased by the TPP. It has not led to economic collapse. It has not led to
But
nuclear war.
bipartisanship has already been
Decrease.
So yeah, so partisanship is increasing because of the TPP.
Yes.
Okay. But the export import bank is passing now.
What's that?
No, never mind.
I'm saying
Okay.
partisanship is increasing, and it's not leading to an economic collapse.
Yeah. Can you summarize your topicality argument, please?
Yeah. There's a couple parts to it.
Great.
Basically, pretty much every argument is extra topical. We all expand a little bit on the topic. We don't say directly in these lines. There is no abuse in surrounded of our advantages, because everything we're saying comes from DMD. You're saying it's a global treaty, but that we're saying it's a global treaty, meaning everyone has signed it. Our landmines are only on the 38th parallel. We're not going out of this area, and that taking these landmines out helps to stop dehumanization, which is a global impact.
Okay.
but not, like, we're not going out of the land to do that. And the Ottawa Treaty, we're even saying it is military presence because mutual multilateral security treaties, agreements from Peterson 2008, we have evidence that that is, the Ottawa Treaty is military. And for fairness and objectivity, I was saying that that your objective approach isn't better fair. It's just because the strongest parties of the in the neoliberal societies or neoliberal models of education, they it perpetuates a neoliberal form of education that makes a sacrificial destruction, that makes dehumanization and its impacts inevitable.
Wait,
I'm sorry, that was confusing. Basically, you're otherizing, you're dehumanizing people who argue different forms and different types of arguments when you say that they can't do this because it's not fair, when really there's other ways to argue rather than just the one staying directly in the topic you just arguing is.
Great.
But I'm not saying that we are extra topical. I'm just saying reasons why you should reject that argument or even accusing us of extra topicality.
Okay.
Time. Prep.